I hate doing the must win thing. Like, it's not a must win until mathematically your season is flat out on the line, and I'm a big subscriber of that. But I understand where, like, if you're looking big picture at the Browns season, it does feel like if you're going to put yourself in a position to at least be in that conversation, it does feel like this is the one that you have to get of this early portion of the schedule, because after this, you obviously know what awaits. You got a Ravens team that's like a Super Bowl favorite. You have a you obviously then have a difficult slate where you go Packers, who now have Micah Parsons thrown into the mix as well. You have the Lions, who were one of the best teams in the NFC last year. You have the Vikings, another good team, which I have some doubts about the Vikings because we don't know what J.J. McCarthy is yet. And then the Steelers, who you play close, but in Pittsburgh has always been a big to-do for the Browns. So I'm not going to say it's a must-win because I hate using that term. But if you're going to, I'll say this. If you're going to surprise people this season and you're going to exceed expectations this season, I do think this is a game that you have to have.
Well, that was interesting because Chris said it is, like you said, it is a game they have to win. Like, if nothing else, just to not let that 0 in the win column hang out there, because, I mean, at least your next 4 games look like, based on last year and how the teams did last year, they're going to be losses. So you would rather go 1-4 off the rip than 0-5. Like, 0-5 is season over. You're not going to make the playoffs. You're looking toward the rookies already. Like, even 0-4, you do that. But I obviously would not call it a...
Not if you're the Bengals, though. They were... Well, I don't know if they were 0-4 last year, but they were like 1-3, maybe?
Yeah, but even like they had an amazing run at the end of the year, and they fell 1 week short. So it's like nearly... You go 0-5, your season's over, for all intents and purposes.
Right.
I'm actually interested that you said it's not a must-win, because I do agree with you that it's not a must-win. Now, it is a must not suck. If you remember the Dallas Cowboys game last year,
not suck.
How absolutely horrifying that game was to watch.
Yeah.
And that's coming off of an 11-6 year where you went to the playoffs, like you had this run, and then you got Deshaun Watson back, and you're thinking, okay, this is the beginning of something great. Like, here we go. And it fell apart so quickly in that first game that it almost felt like this black cloud that continued to hang over the season. And that's the foot that you got off on. And it's like you stepped right into a bear trap and you could not recover from then. So that's why I'm saying, because there's so many rookies on this team, because Joe Flacco's 40 years old, because at least in that locker room, there's the Myles Garrett, Joel Bitonio, Denzel Ward expectations. You absolutely need to at least look like a competent football team.
Well, and I'll say this, to your point. Last year, that opener with the Cowboys was so bad that it almost set in fans' minds, oh boy. Like you kind of felt like it. Now, you went out and you won week 2. Offense didn't look great doing it, but they won week 2, and all this, that kind of, steadied the waters a little bit, if you will. But I do think if you come out and you look inept again, the offense just looks completely lost, discombobulated, pre-snap penalties, all that, which I'm not anticipating because that was all part of training camp last year, and this year that hasn't been the case. They seem to have resolved a lot of those issues, which is a good thing. But yeah, if you come out and they look bad, if the offense can't move up and down the field, if they're not competent whatsoever, and to your point, they suck, they just straight up suck, I think that sets like a bad precedent for the season. If you're at least competitive with the Bengals, and maybe Joe Burrow orchestrates some last-minute game-winning drive to win it or something, that I at least think paves the way for fans to be invested in the season longer than... I mean, last year, fans were pretty much checked out after week 5, week 6. Like that was it.
Think about everything going into that first week. We were debating 14 throws in one half of football against the Ravens about Deshaun Watson. We were talking about, they just got Jerry Jeudy, and what can David Njoku do? And, oh my gosh, the defense was so good last year. Like, maybe they can rebound from the Texans. All of that was put to bed. And what was set in motion was, all right, Deshaun Watson is clearly not the answer. The team's not even scoring 20 points a game. And it took until the Ravens game where they scored 20 points to like sort of put to bed some of that angst from that first week. So that's why I'm thinking, like, this offseason, we're talking about Joe Flacco coming back. Look at all these fun rookies that we just got. What's another year of Jerry Jeudy going to look like? Now you got Isaiah Bond into the mix. You know, Carson Schwarzenegger and Mason Graham are like taking over training camp. All of that is going to be, at the very least, tampered heavily if they go out against the Bengals next week and they look like really bad. So that's why I'm saying, like, if they go out and they lose by a field goal or something like that, you're going to feel okay going into week 2 and for the rest of the year. But if they go out and Flacco looks 40 years old, they can't move the ball on offense, they can't, you know, the defense gets worn down really quickly by that high-powered Bengals offense, you are not going to feel good at all moving forward. And I think the calls Monday morning for Ken Carman and Anthony Lima are going to be, how quickly can we get to Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur?
And because we've built this game up as the game that they should be able to be competitive in and maybe win, I think that's twofold, where if they are lifeless and they don't look like they're putting up much of a fight and they just get steamrolled by Cincinnati, then I think it's going to be even more reason for people to just be completely, not out, but just they'll feel like it's 2024 all over again, I think, is the way that it would kind of go. Because, yeah, like, you can't look... I mean, they looked non-competitive in that game against the Cowboys last year, and that's the thing that you definitely need to avoid in this opening matchup against the Bengals on Sunday. I don't like using the term must-win until it's actually must-win, but do you feel like this game for the Browns... that they have to win this one to sort of set the tone for the rest of the season and put themselves in position where maybe, just maybe, they can surprise some people?
Last year, we were playing a Cowboys team at home who we all thought was beatable. We hyped out that game so much. And what happened? And, like, I understand there is talent. There's a lot of talent on the roster, but it's such a top-heavy roster. And
would you be more disappointed about losing to the Bengals week 1 this year than you were about losing that game to the Cowboys last year, especially once we saw how bad the Cowboys ended up being?
That Cowboys game was a kick to the sternum. Like, that took the air out of everybody.
Tom Brady's first broadcast. Like, there was all this, like, fanfare around it, and then they just, like, completely
everybody in the country watched basically the end of Deshaun Watson's career. Like that, and then everybody forgot about the Browns for the rest of the year. But there was so much hype going in because they went to the playoffs last year. I don't know where the hype's coming from this year. They went 3-14, and they didn't exactly do anything other than draft players to improve.
Well, I mean, I don't know that they're being overhyped. I'm not overhyping.
I promise you, this week people are going to. A lot of people are going to call this a win.
It's the first week of the season. You want people to be excited. I mean, come on.
I just want people to be realistic. That don't be surprised if they go out there and suck ass again.
Listen, here's the thing. I'm somebody who very much is like, I approach pretty much every season as a realist. I'm like, okay, what is the season really going to bring? But at the same time, the Browns fans were going to come in and be like 17-0. Like I heard people in the year they went 0-7 or 0-16 saying, like, I think this team's going to be better than people expect. Like, this is our year. And you just knew that team had no talent. Myles Garrett was like the one guy, and that was it. Like, those people were off their rocker. But I'm not going to get mad at somebody for coming into week 1 of the season excited about a new season and being like, you know what, I think we can win this game today. It's a division opponent. It's week 1. Week 1s are fluky. Like, I'm not going to... I'm okay with a little hype going into week 1. That's okay.
Is this my official, like, I'm a member of the media now that I'm just throwing a wet blanket on the most exciting thing?
I'm not going to rain on people's parade about being excited about week 1 and feeling like the Browns have a chance. At the end of the day, it's the NFL.
I will rain on them all the way to their 0-17 parade.
Who thought the Browns were going to beat the Ravens in that game last year when they made the quarterback change? Like, we were all like, the Ravens are too damn good. And then they looked awful, and Jameis Winston was just lighting them up. And it was fun. Everyone enjoyed that game. It was the Jimmy Donovan appreciation game after he had passed away. Like, his spirit was in the building. Like, that was a fun time. So you got to go in. I understand fans wanting to go into every week feeling like their team has a chance. Now, keep it realistic. They're probably not making the playoffs this year. But I'm not going to be mad at people for being hyped about week 1 of the season. Pick that, though.
I don't think he picked that because they played the one song.
What was that beep boop dee thing?
That was the like game show.
I was gonna say that sounded like the got it wrong horn on Price is Right.
Well, yeah, because he's no longer with the organization.
Oh, that's why you did it. I was like, I thought you were doing that to the song.
But it's cool because like his walkout song and then Daniel Schneeman's walk up song is another Lil Wayne song. So it's like everybody from all like walks.
Look at that, man. Lil Wayne, just transcending generations.
You want to get the segment back on track?
216-474-92. So I don't know why I'm doing this, because whenever I make predictions like this, it always seems to blow up in my face. I don't know. You weren't here, so you wouldn't know the story. Back in 2022, 2022? 2023? 2023. When the... No, wait. Yeah. It was 2023.
I wasn't here.
It was 2023. It was 2023. Sorry. When you have kids, all these years blur together. I can barely remember what day it is. Back in 2023, the Cavs were playing the Knicks in the first round of the playoffs. And I was on the air and I said something along the lines of like, bring on the Knicks or whatever it is. And then that obviously came back to blew up in my face. I was feeling it. I don't know if Mr. Buckley had called in that day or the day before. And I was just like, there's no sports city fan base I hate more than New York. I hate New York sports fans. They're the worst. They think they're like owed everything, and it's absurd to me. And the Knicks haven't won anything, and they act like they win one playoff series, and everyone thinks they're the greatest team of all time. It's just ridiculous to me. So I can't stand them. So I was riding high. I came in. I said it on the air. I don't know. Sometimes you got to have fun in this job. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll learn that as time goes on. You'll make some bold prediction about Syracuse beating, I don't know, Tennessee. Clemson or something, and then they'll get blown out by like 40, and you'll look like an idiot, and you just kind of wear it. It's what happens. Ken said back in 2017 that a 4-0 preseason was building the foundation of the Browns for a successful 2016 campaign, and then they went 0 for that entire season, which was why everybody was tweeting him last week after they went 3-0, like, hey, an undefeated preseason, Ken, because he made that. It happens. It happens to all of us.
He also said, give me the Yankees, and then they proceeded to get blown out of the divisional round.
See, that's another New York one where I could have done it, and then I didn't do it. So yeah, like that. We all do these things from time to time, but I am willing to sit here right now at 11:06, about to be 11:07, on September 1st, 2025, 6 days out from kickoff of the Browns season. And I'm willing to guarantee a win on Sunday over the Bengals.
Wow. Congratulations.
I'm doing it.
Cue the music. Cue the Michael Stanley. Can we play the Michael Stanley anymore? I don't know.
Guarantee the Browns start this year 1-0. You want to know why?
Why?
First of all, week ones, that's not it. But my wife might disagree. Week ones are like the flukiest thing ever. Like, you just never know. Teams are always, half these teams like don't know what their identity is. I mean, even the Ravens last year started 0-2 and got up to a rough start to the season. Obviously, they pulled the nose up on the plane and they were fine because they're a really, really good team. But sometimes it just takes some time for teams to find their footing. Sometimes it takes time to figure out what you're doing, how you fit in an offense, what, different pieces and parts that get added in during the offseason are kind of figuring out what their rules are. You just don't always know those things early on. And the Bengals, by the way, are the epitome of slow starts. That team constantly doesn't know what their identity should be or what they're trying to do, and they constantly get off to slow starts. They started last year 0-3 and then 1-5. Or no, 1-4, to open up the season. And yeah, they dug themselves out of it to the point where they were going into the last week of the season with a chance to make the playoffs if certain things had gone their way. And part of the reason they dug themselves out of it is because they have one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Joe Burrow. He's fantastic. I'm not trying to downplay the fact that Joe Burrow is a great quarterback. And for a lot of people, they're going to look and say, well, how are the Browns? That's probably why the spread is what it is. All these national people are going to pick the Bengals to win because it's the Bengals and they have Joe Burrow, forgetting and having amnesia that they always start the year 0 for something before they finally figure it out. And I'm not buying the Bengals stock in a week one ever. Until Zach Taylor shows me that they're not going to start 0-3 or whatever, I'm not buying Bengals stock week one. I refuse to do it. The other part of this is generally speaking, the Browns have almost always been able to cause problems for Joe Burrow. I know last year, that wasn't the case. I've continued to say it. I think the offense being as bad as it was a problem. That was the one game they won last year early on. They beat the Browns in week 4 or whatever the hell it was. And so yeah, like I it's not lost on me that he's great and that he can do a lot of great things, and I recognize that. But at the same time, I also just think Myles Garrett gives him nightmares. This defensive line is the strength of this Browns team, and they're going to be able to cause a lot of problems, I think, up front for Joe Burrow, like they tend to do. So unless Joe Burrow's getting, I worry about the secondary. If they stay healthy, I think they'll be okay. Mm-hmm. But if they get hurt, that's where you have some issues. Unless he's getting rid of the ball lightning quick and slicing and dicing the secondary, I think this defensive line is going to have a chance to cause some problems for Joe Burrow. And I know he's got great weapons, but that hasn't stopped the Browns from winning these games before. He's 3-5 against the Browns, and his 2 wins, 2 of the wins came last year in a season where the Browns were awful. Like the worst season on record under Kevin Stefanski. And then the other part of this too is just this Bengals defense looks awful. Like they were bad last year, which is why they missed the playoffs. If they had even had a respectable defense, they clearly would have made the playoffs last year. They're trying to win shootouts with the Ravens, and they lost both of them. They're trying to win shootouts with other teams, and they kept on losing those games. Like, yeah, it's great that you have Joe Burrow. It's great that you got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Are you going to stop anybody ever? No. Their pass defense was bad last year. They gave up 30 touchdowns through the air, which was like 4th worst in the NFL. And then I'm worried about the run defense this year too, because in the preseason, and I know they got Trey Hendrickson back, but he's not a run stopper. He's a pass rusher. And they were giving up 10 yards per carry on the ground to like the Eagles backups in the preseason. The starting defense against the Eagles backups.
No Trey Hendrickson.
True, but like I said, he's not solving the problem of stopping the run all those plays. That's not what he does best. So I recognize Trey Hendrickson's going to be out there on Sunday. Great. Okay. Does that solve all their problems on defense? Absolutely not. It doesn't. So I think there's going to be an opportunity here for the Browns defensive line to cause problems for Joe Burrow. And I think there's going to be opportunities for Joe Flacco to move the ball up and down the field on this defense. And I think in the end, it gives you, while the Bengals do their thing they always do, where they start slow and got to figure it out, I think this is a perfect opportunity for the Browns to win. So much so that I'm going to guarantee the Browns start the season 1-0. There you go.
Okay. Well, I mean, to your point, the last time the Bengals won a Week 1 game was 2021. So they're 0-3 in their last
like
3.
Almost pre-COVID.
Yeah. Like, so it's been quite a while. That my one counterpoint would be, other than the Browns are not good, but that's not really a point, is I don't know if the offense has enough manpower to keep up with the Bengals. And I think what that's going to end up causing is
In regards to what?
Like, the receivers are not there. I don't really trust the run game at this point in time. Offensive line is returning. You don't have to
trust it against this Bengals defense. The Bengals defense was giving up 10 yards per carry in the preseason.
That is true. But
Jerome Ford can certainly run through those holes. Did you see some of the holes that they were giving up in those games?
Yeah,
you could have been the starting running back, and you could have found room to run.
I know, but I like their new defensive coordinator. Like, maybe, and I know it wasn't a good preseason showing, but I like the idea that they're kind of going back to a different style without Golden. I'm not super sold on the run game yet. It takes an offensive line a little bit of time throughout the season to build into what they need to be, and you have a first-year offensive line coach, so they are kind of relearning a bunch of stuff.
But this offensive line, though, they've talked a ton about getting back to the things that they were doing when they were successful. Like, I understand if this was last year and it was Ken Dorsey's offense and they're doing a lot more for Deshaun Watson, you'd be right. All we've heard all training camp and preseason is that the offensive line is going back to the stuff that made them great under Bill Callahan, and that they've embraced what's being sort of coached to them from Bloomgren. Like they are, this group knows what they're doing. If it was a young offensive line, if it was a lot of new guys, I'd agree. But this offensive line was together the last time they were a dominant offensive line with most of the same pieces and parts. And 4 of the 5 are pretty much the same. So that's where I'm like, I see what you're saying, But that's why I believe that I don't think the offensive line is going to be an issue at all. I think they'll create the holes. It's just going to be about like, are the running backs good enough? I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to push back on. Yes, there's a talent discrepancy with the weapons that the Browns have versus the Bengals. 100% there is. But is it enough for Joe Flacco to work with? I think so. Is it enough for him to win a couple games here or there? I mean, if we think they're going to win, if the over-under is 5.5. They're going to get wins somewhere. I like the offense is going to be fine enough to win some games. I think this is one that they can absolutely have.
Yeah, I'm not really even arguing with you that it is a winnable game. And like week 1 Bengals, I don't trust Zach Taylor. Like I think Zach Taylor's kind of a joke and he's a Joe Burrow merchant, but they still are a bad team out of the gate, no matter what. The one thing that I kept going back to when I watched the offense in the preseason, whether it was Tyler Huntley or Joe Flacco running the offense, it just looked stale. And maybe that's going to work. Maybe that boring ground and pound, whatever, naked bootleg to the tight end is going to work out, but it just looked stale. There were no big-time playmakers on the field at all. Like, it just didn't look like that. It looked like a flat offense. And what I'm wondering is, are the Bengals going to be able to do enough to just stop them enough times to wear down the Browns defense because they'll be out there for so long that they'll be able to come back and you trust Joe Burrow way more than a 40-year-old Joe Flacco in this Browns offense in a 2-minute game-winning drive?
Twitter reactions brought to you by Scheibman Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. Kevin Schumann says Bengals, quote, climb their way out of it. We also have to consider their last 5 games. Dallas, Tennessee, Cleveland, Denver, Pittsburgh. Yeah, and I did mention... I don't think it was today. Maybe it was on Saturday. But I did mention that like those games weren't great. So that helped the cause at the end of the season. But my main point obviously was that you have Joe Burrow. You obviously have a chance to win any game when he's your quarterback for sure. And so I'm not going to sit here and listen. The Browns are one of those teams that we just rattled off. Like that's the same thing this year. When your schedule has Cleveland on it, no one's like, oh, that's a real daunting task right there. I'm not saying that. I just think the division games are always weird. It's weird early in the season anyway, especially for a team like the Bengals. They've generally done a good job against Joe Burrow. I think there's enough there that the Browns can win this game, and I'm going to go out and say that they're going to win it on Sunday. So I'm starting us off with a bang this week. Week 1 is here. You were talking about not getting too excited, and here I am telling people there's a reason to be excited. 1-0.
What are you going to do
1-0 to start the year
when they don't win?
I mean, I'm not betting anything. I'm not doing that whole, like, I'll eat some ridiculous thing or, like, shove something up my you-know-what, like that one guy in college. Who was that? Wasn't that like a...
That was a burrito. Can we clip him saying that and play it the next time we're together?
No, because I'm not doing that. I'm definitely... That's what
I just want to clip you saying that you're guaranteeing a win.
Yeah, you can... I mean, give it 10 minutes. Keith will have it up on the fans' Twitter account. We'll both retweet it, I'm sure. So it'll be up. Don't you worry. It'll be up there. I'll guarantee a win. My shame comes when I'm wrong, and then people can call in and say, "Why would you do that? You're an idiot." Or if we get a chance to talk to James Rapine later today, and he's like, "You guarantee a win?" Like, Spence, what are you doing? Like that. That's my shame that I get to wear. Fine. I'll live with it if I'm wrong. But I'm going to say the Browns win on Sunday and get Cleveland fans excited about this game coming up this weekend.